Hey guys, and welcome back to Runway from the Rav, a Project Runway podcast. My name is Riley.
And I'm Maggie.
And today we'll be discussing Season 16, Episode 13, Finale Part 1. That's right, folks, we're already at the finale.
Yeah.
So this episode, we saw our 5 final designers because we still have 5. After 2 episodes, they still couldn't eliminate anyone, so we still have 5. And Heidi and Tim come out on the runway and say, each one of you will get $10,000 to create a 10-look collection in 6 weeks. Which I think last season it was 6 weeks, but it used to be like 8+ weeks, wasn't it? Like months.
Yeah, it was a long time.
But now, like everything with modern day Project Runway, it's like, nope, 6 weeks, 10 looks, and that they would have to present a 2-look preview to the judges, and that 3 would get to move forward. We'll see how accurate that is.
Yeah.
But they all did make a 2-look preview. There was no twist or anything. Actually, the last few episodes, there haven't been a twist. Whereas, like, last season, I feel like they usually had a twist.
Yeah, I mean, this time the twist was just like, you're all going to Fashion Week. Psych! Only 3! Guaranteed.
And everybody's like, oh, God. But it's like, it's Project Runway. But there wasn't, like, a twist after that. Like, they didn't come back and be like, because I know in a previous season they had to make another look to show, or I know in previous ones, like the challenge before the finale, they had to, like, they were making a look, and then they're like, oh, just kidding, you also have to make another one. So, no, like, big twist, because the designers basically had to wait, like, from the first runway from the night before to the next morning, instead of, like, 6 weeks or whatever. So, and then they each got an embroidery machine gift from Brothers Sewing, which they all seemed pretty excited about. And then, obviously, poor Tim Gunn had to make 5 home visits. So, not only do you get this nice embroidery machine gift and $10,000, you also get to have Tim Gunn in your studio. Take 1,000,000 pictures and hang them on the wall. Like, this place has been touched by Tim Gunn. Success has walked within these doors. So, I don't know, do you have any feeling about that? Like, 10 pieces is usually pretty standard, and 10,000 seems pretty decent. Obviously, that's a lot of money for Project Runway. 50,000 total instead of 30,000. So, but do you have any opinions on that challenge of the 2-piece preview?
I don't. I think it's a little unfair that they're like, y'all made it! And then just, like, pulled the rug out immediately. Like, just kidding.
Yeah. Well, and especially when we just had 2 episodes, which we discussed before, that, like, they could have eliminated anybody during those 2, but they didn't eliminate anyone. So this is like the 3rd week in a row where it's like, are we going to have 5 go to Fashion Week? Then just have it be that. So
yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the 2-look preview. I'm guessing it was just because they had 5 designers, so 3 looks would take longer. But I feel like 3 seems to make more sense for a 10-piece collection, whereas 2 looks, like, to show that cohesion, I think is harder in just 2 looks.
Yeah.
Because a snapshot of most collections is going to be, not everyone uses the same textile. Some do. Not everybody uses the same color, so you might not be able to tell that story. So normally it's a 3-look preview, so that surprised me a little bit. But otherwise, it worked out. I don't think anybody was really, under the bus because of it or anything.
No.
Okay, so before we get to the home visits, which are one of my favorite things every season, I just love seeing how people live. And I love seeing the different levels of studios. Like, some people, it's in their apartment. Some people are renting a space. Like, last season, Laurence's studio space blew my mind. It was so beautiful and really cool. This, like, airy loft in L.A. And then someone else is in, like, a closet. Like, it just is kind of neat. But before we get to that, poor Tim Gunn fell, apparently, and he had a gigantic Band-Aid on his forehead for all the home visits, and he told Ayana, who's the first one, he's like, I had a terrible fall, and I had to go to the ER room and get stitches, so the Band-Aid's pretty much just hiding the stitches. So the Band-Aid was kind of, like, loose and everything, but you don't want to put a real tight Band-Aid on stitches and risk pulling them out. And obviously, he's Tim Gunn. He's not going to put on, like, a Barbie Band-Aid or something, okay? And he's Tim Gunn. He's not a hat man, because he could have hit it with a hat, but Tim Gunn doesn't wear hats.
No.
Okay, he doesn't wear shorts, he doesn't wear hats. So, but I felt really bad for him because obviously that's a pretty nasty fall, and it's right in the middle of his forehead. And then it's, before the home visit where he goes and meets people, and there's going to be a lot of camera time for him, and he's just like, great. Plus an ER, that's scary. And Tim Gunn is not exactly, super young, so it's like any ER or fall is scary. I can't imagine a Project Runway without Tim Gunn, and I don't want to imagine my life without a little Tim Gunn. To be honest. Yeah, like, he is the heart and soul. Okay, so also I wanted to mention that it's kind of cool this season that every single designer, we had 5, were all in different cities. Mm-hmm. So frequently we have a couple people in New York or a couple people in LA, but this time we had 2 people in California, but they weren't in the same city, so everyone's spaced out. So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So first, we went to Salt Lake City to visit Ayana, and Tim and Ayana met with Ayana's mother, also named Ayana, and Tim learned that Ayana has 11 sisters. So either they really wanted a son, or they just really wanted a lot of kids. Yeah. And I have to wonder, are they all named Ayana?
That would be bizarre. I don't know.
And I don't know what order she is. Is she the oldest? Is she the youngest? Is she somewhere in the middle? They didn't say. But 11 siblings, 11 sisters, that's a lot.
It is.
She didn't mention any brothers. So I'm guessing just, and then she had her friend there, and they were like in a park, sitting at a picnic table, talking about Ayana's achievements. They didn't eat or do a picnic. They just sat at a table for what appeared to be 10 minutes, had a little chat, and then Ayana and Tim go off, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Not as cool as like last season. Sometimes like him and Rick went bowling, or him and Roberry like got like coffee and walked around New York. So some people got more interesting like activities, and then some people were just like, hey, bye.
Yeah.
So then we go to Ayana's apartment where she has her collection being built, and her inspiration, she apparently is originally from upstate New York, so she went up there after Project Runway like released her and took some pictures, and so she wanted to make a modest look, obviously a modest collection, but earthy, which we haven't really seen that from her so much this season, like that inspiration. It always surprises me a little bit when people's final collections, the inspiration is random. We will get to that when we get to Margarita, but of truly random inspiration. But it kind of shocks me sometimes. Like last season with Laurence, like I expected this, and she's gone back to that now with her more recent fashion shows and collections. But like she's like, no, I want to make this whole thing about my life story from darkness to light. And it's like, well, that's a beautiful story, but it's nothing that you've made. Or Rick's surrealism kind of. So it's like, okay, so you want to make earthy upstate New York? That's fine. Like, I'm not saying earthy is not fashion. It's just, sometimes I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And her inspiration board was like pictures of like clumps of leaves and like grass and selfies.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like a unique like waterfall or forest or something. So she had, it looked like 3 pieces done, and he was visiting in the 5th week. So they had like a week, maybe a week and a half to go. And she's like, yeah, I'm basically going to have to make a look a day.
Yeah.
And I know I've talked about this last season, but it gives me so much anxiety because that's not the kind of person I am. I'm not a last minute person. And I just like, if you have 6 weeks and you have 10 garments and you should be making like 2 looks a week. And I would have almost everything done, or as much as I could by the time Tim came. Now, Ayana had some circumstances that were unfortunate. When she first came back, her apartment was flooded. The apartment above her is like a pipe burst. So I'm sure that put her back because she lives in that apartment and needs to make her looks there. So I'm sure she probably had like a week, maybe even 2 to 3 weeks where she was maybe not able to live in her apartment or not able to use it to create, which is unfortunate, but then you got to have a backup plan. You got to take your sewing machine to grandma's house or to Starbucks, and you got to make it work. Tim had not much to say about her collection, in terms of like he had a couple buzzwords for other folks that I'll get to when we visit with them, but he pretty much just was like, well, you just have a lot left to do.
Yeah.
But he didn't seem negative. She had a couple of her like modest kind of dresses that look a little House on the Prairie with like and then she was working a little bit with more like grungy style. She wanted to mix in athleisure, which we hadn't seen her do this season either. So earthy, athleisure, modesty.
Yeah.
But Tim seemed open. Then we went to Atlanta and visited Kenya, and Kenya brought Tim to her uncle's house, which was a nice big house, and there inside he was going to have lunch with her grandmother, her mother, it looked like a cousin, and potentially an aunt, and they were all eating in the kitchen, and then there was more family members like in the backyard, not able to eat with Tim. Couldn't fit
No.
in the shot. So they had to, like, eat in the backyard. Because there was, like, guys and children and stuff. So I'm guessing, like, the uncle and, like, cousins. But Kenya and, like, 4 people and Tim. And they had a nice meal and kind of learned a little more about, like, Kenya. Some of her struggles of just financially and things like that to follow your dream. Which sometimes you got to make sacrifices. And, yeah, they don't always pay out the way you think. And it can be a struggle. Definitely artistic struggle is real. Mm-hmm. But it was nice. Her family was very tight-knit.
Yep.
Then we went to her, she doesn't live in her uncle's house, but we went to, I'm guessing, her apartment or wherever she's staying, and that's where her studio was, and she was inspired by vacation, oceans and sand, but her look was like millennial pink, which is basically blush, but it's a buzzword right now, millennial pink, in like white, which to me, sand maybe, ocean, no.
Well, she had, like, that circle pattern or whatever it was all over. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's, like, reminiscent of bubbles. Water.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, she had a lot of, like, light, blushy pink fabrics that had, like, pearls on them or beading. Or, yeah, they had, like, this circle pattern. And then she had, like, this creamy white. Mm-hmm. Tim's big critique for her was the color palette. She was already struggling when he came in. She was like, I started drawing my collection. She had drawings of it, and she had about 3 or 4 pieces done. Mm-hmm. Or, like, at a point where they could go on to a dress for him. And, you know, she's like, but then I kind of hit a brick wall. And he was like, it's your color palette. There's no wow factor here. Like, subdued blush and cream, 10 of that in a row is just not very exciting, especially for New York Fashion Week. And she's like, yeah, and he's like, but if you bring in, like, a navy, or, like, a maroon, I think he said, and then she got really pepped up, so he, like, gave her direct colors to bring in. Mm-hmm. We'll see if she does that, but he gave her some direct feedback, whereas I feel like with Ayana, he didn't give as much. No. Maybe because she didn't need it, but he was just like, bring navy in, you know, the ocean is blue, so he didn't say that, but it's just like, okay. Yeah. Do you have anything to say about the Ayana or Kenya visits? Mm-mm. All right. Next, we went to Los Angeles, and we visited Kentaro, and we saw him have the most awkward phone call with parents I've ever seen. So his family is in Japan, obviously, and it was his mother and father, and I'm not sure if those were siblings or what, but there was a lot of young children also there. And he's having, like, a video chat, and you know, his parents are basically speaking Japanese, which is cool. Mm-hmm. You know, like, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, I'm fine, just, you know, preparing for New York Fashion Week. And then his mom is like, is Heidi there? Doesn't she look like that dead British lady? Yeah. And Kentaro is just like, Princess Diana? And she's like, yeah. And I know it's a cultural difference, but Princess Diana died a really long time ago. And other than being blonde and white, does not look like Heidi Klum to me. Diana obviously had short hair or cropped hair, blonde, died long time ago. Heidi, German. And I just, so that was funny because Kentaro's like, no, they don't look anything alike. So that was an interesting thing. But don't worry, the Kentaro visit just gets weirder than that.
Yeah, it does.
So Tim comes in. And because Kentaro does not have any family there and apparently did not, I'm sure he has friends, but he didn't bring any guests or anything. Mm-hmm. And he was in this cool kind of lofty space, which now, because I've never been to LA, I just assume every apartment in LA has this beautiful, big, spacious loft space. And I refuse to hear otherwise. That's a guarantee. I've seen 2 now. And so he said that his look was inspired, or his collection was inspired by classical piano music, which we know Kentaro did for years and years, and then went to design. But we haven't heard him talk about music since, like, episode, like, 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of nice to be like, oh, so he still feels that way. And he had a little black in his collection, but not too much. And the beige and the creams he likes. Mm-hmm. And he also had some bright pops of red and some kind of different silhouettes than he's normally made. And Tim's critique there was just cohesion. Yeah. So he's like, I feel like you have 3 or 4 collections here. And Kentaro was like, well, there's transition pieces that tie them together, which made me think of Sean from his season a couple seasons ago. He had this, like, orange to white, but you wouldn't get it if you just saw 2 pieces. But when you see all 10, it was like more and more fringe and more orange.
Right.
But we didn't get to, he had a lot more pieces done. I thought he probably had like 6 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, and I composed some music to go with my collection. And Tim, who also used to play piano, we learned, was like, oh, I would love to hear it. So Kentaro has this beautiful baby grand piano that he just like sidles up to and starts playing this very like discordant, ominous, like weird music. And Tim is like, it's beautiful. Like, what inspired you to write this? And Kentaro has been adorable and kind of off the wall all season, but this was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. So he was like, I was walking in LA and I found a dead cat. So I buried it, and then I listened to the ground, and this is what I heard. And then it just cuts to Tim's face. And Tim is so gracious, quite the gentleman, always has nice, respectful things to say. And it's just on his face for what felt like 10 minutes of just blank, like just looking slightly concerned, like a bit of a tinge to the brow. And he's like, well, that's wonderful. What do you say? Like, it's wonderful that you buried this, dead stray or someone's cat. I can understand, like, having maybe a moment that maybe you had alone, burying this cat, like, maybe inspired you to write some sad music, but that I put my ear to the ground of its burial site and wrote this music, and the music was odd. Like, it was very, like, weird key changes and kind of some, like, weird notes, and it was beautiful, but to hear that it was inspired by a dead cat he buried was just, Tim Gunn just blank face, and then, oh, that's wonderful, I gotta go. He immediately left. Like, they may have had a plan for him and Kentaro to, like, I don't know, go do some LA thing, and nope, Tim's gotta go.
Canceled.
Gotta go. But it was cool to see Kentaro, like, to see him talking to his parents in Japanese, to see him play the piano, to see his so that was kind of neat to just see, like, things we've heard throughout the season and then see it there. Like, Kenny's talked about her family and stuff like that, and they were eating, like, heaps of food. They had, like, trays of food. Mm-hmm. So she would talk about, like, food or things like that with her family. So, but it was nice to see those elements of Kentaro. So then Tim literally runs from there to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and to visit Margarita. And so first, when he gets there, they tour San Juan, old San Juan, and this was really kind of sad. Like, it's beautiful, but this was before the hurricane hit, so it's all still
only 6 weeks before.
Yeah,
it said.
Yeah, so it was gorgeous, like nice colors. It felt very tropical and almost like Mediterranean to me. Like, and she's mentioned that it was inspired by some of that design, and they took like a little walking tour with him and her, just talking about how she was so inspired by the color and everything. And it's just like, I've never been to Puerto Rico, but it was just cool. But to know now that the hurricane has devastated a large portion of that area is so sad. Yeah, like, it's kind of heartbreaking that it's like, and they had no idea when they're filming it. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's probably 90 degrees. They're wearing, little Tim's wearing like this very summery suit. And it's just like, oh my, just knowing what happens just made that whole segment kind of bittersweet. And then we meet up with Margarita's parents, and they sit down at like a little outdoor cafe, but they don't eat. They just have glasses of water. And they talk a little bit about how proud they are of Margarita and how she's just a go-getter. And we learned that she actually tried out for Project Runway 9 years ago. She auditioned and did not make it in, but she didn't try like year after year like we've seen some other folks had tried again and again. But she just waited 9 years, tried out, and got on. She's like, I knew that now was the time. But she also mentioned she made a lot of sacrifices for her career. She's like, I'm not dating anybody. I don't have a husband. She's like, I don't have any children. Like, my career is my baby. And the sacrifices she's made, different maybe than Kenya's, but definitely sacrifices she's made knowing that she wanted to make fashion goal of hers. And it's not easy to get into fashion or show business or any kind of those things. Like, it's hard, so you gotta really work. But then to get into Project Runway is kind of cool. Then 9 years ago, I wonder how much different she would have been of a designer. Or 9 years ago, like what season would she have been on? It's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah.
So then we go back to her parents' house, and I believe she was in the basement, which is like a nice finished basement, and her studio space was over the pool table of which she had put over like some fabric and like a piece of wood so she could lay all her stuff out. So that was kind of cool because, to be honest, that's probably where my studio space would be. I'd be like, Mom, Dad, like I live in an apartment, there's no room, so it's small, so I'd have to be like, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna go. And just on top of the pool table was kind of funny. And she was inspired for her collection by the colors in a couch that her parents had in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna just let that sink in. Let's remember back last episode, Kenya made a jacket, like a trench coat, based off of a couch my parents had in their basement in the 80s. Let's just keep thinking, keep going back. It was a wackadoo couch. Like 2 different fabrics, clashing color patterns, very 80s. And it's from a picture of her and her sister, like, playing. So I get its sentimental value. And so Margarita decided to make her own textiles based off that pattern. And then put it together. And she had quite a few looks done. It was very bright and colorful. She had, like, fish and parrots and stuff like that. She had bright color. She also then had this, embroidered, like, trimming with gold rings holding it on.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like macrame, but not quite.
It's like crochet-ish, like...
Yeah, but
more
not...
like macrame, because the rings were, like, tied into it.
Yeah.
Or, like...
More like macrame, but in a color.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a J from season 1 kind of crochet, like knit. This was, like, very open. It's very hard to explain, but Tim was like, I'm responding well to your textiles and your colors, but he's like, this yarn thing with the gold rings, he's like, you can't have that. And the word he used for her was sophistication. He was like, right now it's very resort wear, it's very beachy. He's like, you have to take them from the beach to the street. Mm-hmm. And Marguerite was like, it clicked. She's like, I get it. She's like, unfortunately, a lot of my looks involved that treatment, but she still had time to fix it. And she was willing to listen to Tim and take that advice. And it's true. Like, for New York Fashion Week, street fashion right now is kind of a big deal. So, and listening to Tim usually guides you right. Now, Margarita, the last couple episodes, has listened to Tim, and his advice has not always been great. I'm thinking the Wonder Woman challenge. I'm thinking the full fur dress. And he, so he's not infallible. And then he jets off to our final destination, which is San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And he meets up with Brandon and Brandon's girlfriend, and they are out at a park, again, just at a random picnic table, overlooking what basically looked like the opening shot to Full House.
Yeah, they're what are they called? Painted ladies? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those houses, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like the opening shot to Full House is like right where they sat down. And Tim's like, oh, do you guys come here a lot? And Brandon's like, whenever we have time. And I was like, maybe that's a San Francisco thing to do. But we met his girlfriend, who he had a call with, and she apparently is a designer as well, which I didn't know. And they met when they were in design school together. So that's kind of cool. But they designed similar aesthetics, but for different silhouettes. And she does design for women, whereas he's usually designed for men. And then awkwardly enough, Brandon and Tim go off back to their apartment, and she just like wanders off into the park. She's like, have a good time. I'll get my own Uber. Like, it was really weird. All of these, all these home visits were just a little awkward, more awkward than normal.
Yeah. In
previous seasons, it's felt, and I don't know if it's just because he doesn't have as much of a connection with these designers or what, or just the editing, but they just didn't feel like, I don't know. Like, before he, like, spent time with people's kids, or he, like, came into their home and, like, ate a meal and was there for, like, a long time, or even when he met up, last scene was, like, Aaron, they met up at a restaurant, but they had, like, a whole, it's one, like, I don't want to just harp on the meal thing, but then you're at least there for, like, 40 minutes to an hour or more talking, whereas when you just sit down at a picnic table with a bottle of water, it's like, would that take 10 minutes? Like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. So he went back to his workspace, which was actually in their college. So they must have been able, kind of like Aaron got an agreement to use the space last season in Boston. He did the same, and his inspiration was layers of love, because he likes working with layers, which we know. And then he also wanted to tell the story of love, because he's like, I'm a sentimental guy, and I could see that about Brandon. He's pretty soft-spoken and everything. And, his fabric of choice is this kind of loud pink, literally flamingo fabric. The flamingos are really layered on top of each other, so you don't notice it's flamingos at first. But once you see one, like, curved neck, then you see them all, and then it's all flamingos from there. Yeah. But he did some interesting treatments where he used it inside out, where he used, like, a color remover to lighten it. So some of that treatment was cool. And then he brought in some, like, pink leathers and some, like, more cream colors. And all Tim had to say was that he was crazy about it. So he didn't really have any negative things to say, which how you can look at... Because Brandon had almost all 10 looks, like, hanging on, like, a rack there. How you could not be like, really? You made 10 looks with flamingos? Mm-hmm. That's not what Cohesion's about. And I have a great quote of the week from Tim about Cohesion. But we'll get there. So that's it. That's the home visits.
Yep.
Yeah. Normally I love them. Yeah. And it lasted a long time. This was a long episode. Hour-and-a-half episode.
It was.
Lasted a long time. And yeah, they just didn't feel as genuine as previous home visits. And I love the home visits. But these ones were just kind of like, I don't know if it's because of the designers or because, Tim hurt his head. But I don't know. It was just...
Yeah, that could be. Or maybe, just because they've never had 5 before, have they?
Yeah, so maybe they just had to make them quicker or cheaper.
Yeah.
But it's just like, well, once you already flew him to San Juan or you already flew him to, like, Salt Lake City or Atlanta, then you might as well...
Yeah, why not make it worthwhile?
Yeah, so maybe he only had, like, 2 hours between his flights, but it just seemed kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, do you have anything else to say about the home visits?
No, you covered everything.
Yes.
That Kentaro moment was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was weird. It was very weird because he's always seemed kind of like naive and innocent, and it was like, it's nice that you buried the cat, but it's kind of creepy.
It was like he almost like just, I don't know, out-weirded himself.
Yeah.
I don't have a good word for it,
mm-hmm.
but it was like, Kentaro has always been like a little quirky, but this seemed way further.
It was like dark.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Or like weird for being weird. Like that's a story I could see like Dexter from last season telling.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, okay. Or like Stella. But this just seemed like Kentaro.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you buried the cat though.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't get like eaten by bugs above ground. It'll get eaten by bugs below ground. Okay, so we get to the quote-unquote workroom. Like we said, there was no twist this time. They didn't have to make another look. There was nobody who, like, literally still needed time to finish their garments, whereas I feel like in the last couple seasons, there's been people who, like, I still have a whole look to make, and it's like, what? So most people were just, like, struggling after they saw everyone else's and being like, oh, dang.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. So Ayana and Kenya, I feel, struggled the most. Ayana just felt really unsure and like shook.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the entire like workroom time, she was just not confident. And then Kenya the same way. She's like, I don't like my stuff anymore. After seeing everybody else's, she's like, I don't like it. But she wasn't in love with it before.
Yeah.
And then Tim comes around and is looking at all the final quote unquote collections and is like, okay, what 2 looks are you thinking to bring? And Ayana pulls out these 2 really modest kind of Little House on the Prairie dresses, and Tim's like, no, I think you should show these 2 looks, which are these more athleisure, kind of grungy, one super grungy, and then the other kind of like a mother silver moo-moo over some athletic pants. And she's like, I don't know. And so she kind of flopped back and forth. And we'll get to that a little bit. And then Kenya, again, it was hard to tell, like, if their models, they just got 2 assigned to them for this 2 preview, or if they got to pick any of their looks, because obviously this season added an extra hurdle, I'll say, because in previous seasons, if you had a model who didn't show up to New York Fashion Week, or if you wanted to switch outfits around because your typical model are all within the same couple inches of height and all within the same probably like 10-pound range in terms of weight, you could switch outfits really easily, or tops and bottoms. But by adding plus size models mixed in with more traditional size models, you can't do that. So if you made a dress for a size 14 model, you cannot put that on your size 4 model, or vice versa. So you're a little more like kind of, you made that choice and that's what they're going to have to wear. So for Kenya, she'd made this black dress for one of her models, and Tim was like, well, do you have anything else that model could wear? And she's like, no. Mm-hmm. So that made it seem like they just got 2 random models assigned to them for the 2-day preview. So, like, if you had not planned or didn't have other models of the same size, you're kind of screwed. And I think Kenny was kind of screwed with that. Mm-hmm. Margarita had a couple looks, and hers are so loud and vibrant and also sparkly. And also like 70s kind of. She was like, well, I'm thinking about using this bomber jacket over this, but I could pair it with shorts. And Tim was like, I love that. So she ended up having to make a new pair of shorts. So she's really the only person who had to make new. Ayana was like finishing one garment, but everybody else was pretty much done. So Margarita had to make some new shorts. And then Kentaro was struggling a bit. He wanted to show these 2 looks, and then Tim was kind of like, I would go with these other 2. Or they had one that they disagreed on. And then Brandon didn't even show Tim the 2 he wanted to show. He's like, I'm just going to see what looks good on the models. Mm-hmm. And Tim's like, sounds great.
Yeah.
Because who cares what Brandon makes? Just
everything is wonderful.
Doesn't matter. Here we go. So, I guess we'll get to the runway. It was a little disappointing, however, to see... Well, we'll get to that. Do you have anything else about the workroom?
No. We should probably keep on moving.
Keep on moving. All right, so the runway was a little awkward. There was no guest judge this week, which is odd because last season we had Michael Kors at this time, and I would have really used some Michael Kors, especially for this runway. Yeah. Really missing him. So there was no guest judge at all. And Heidi was on a screen again, which I feel like happened once last season as well, where she's like, I'm in LA. And I'm like, really? You guys couldn't book the time to show this at a different time? Where the host of your show could be there. I mean, it works out because she's on like a camera thing, but it just makes me wonder like how much of this is canned footage and how much is live. So that's not ideal. So first up down the runway was Brandon, and his models were Lyris and Janine, and we love Lyris. Brandon, I don't think has worked with Lyris since episode 1, where he complained that he got quote unquote the hardest model because she's quote unquote the largest model. And he hadn't worked with her since then. And I think he was the one who dressed her the worst of anybody on this season. And yep, he did it again for me. But here. Okay, so Lyris came down first, and she's wearing a crop top.
Wow.
With a high-waisted skirt that's got like a rolled down rim that looks like the top of like a paper bag you're going to put like a alcohol bottle into. The crop top has no sleeves. Random straps off the shoulders. It's got like a little like little buttons on the top that are undone. And then the skirt, I believe it's a skirt, is got a high slit up the side, and then down the edge of that slit are like eyelets. The fabric itself is like little flowers, and it's light blue. I'm sorry, it's not flowers, it's the flamingos. This must be one that he dip dyed or decolored because it's very desaturated. And then it's got some random straps, and it's just a real flowy skirt to the floor. Do you want to do both of them, or do you want to critique it once?
No,
okay,
let's just do
since
both.
It's a little collection. Next up we had Janine, who we haven't seen in a while. And she had like this little kind of peachy coral leather crop top. And it's kind of an interesting shape onto the sleeves, and then underneath it is like a smock dress, which we know he loves, made out of that flamingo fabric that kind of has like an apron at the front, and then the back's a little longer, and then he's got like a little backpack that he's kind of put her in, and then like the little crop top thing goes over the smock, so you can see like the neck of the smock up by her neck. What did we think of Brandon's?
Well, you kind of had already said it earlier, how once you see one flamingo, you see all of them.
Yeah.
And that was like a big draw of like Brandon when he was like at his home visit. He's like, I like this because like it looks abstract. It doesn't even look like flamingos. Like, yeah, that's a flamingo.
Yeah, I was like, disagree.
Ditto. I don't know. I don't really like his collection. I did like Janine's look. That one was pretty interesting, and I like that it's not all the pattern, but the outfit he put on Lyris, it didn't work for me at all. I like how you described the pants. That was pretty good, because I have no idea how to describe them. It just seems like he's using all of his, like, tricks, you know, like the straps, the little eyelet things. The crop top, you know, just, and something I noticed about him was it did seem like he was trying so many pieces on them. Yeah. And it's like, that's because your pieces have no, like, tailoring or, like, real fit. Like,
shots fired. I don't disagree. You gave me a worried look like I was going to come to bat for Brandon. No. Let it go. Let it out.
I didn't mean to be so cold, but, I mean, it's just like, yeah. I don't know. Is there something I'm not getting? Because the judges are just so amazed. Everything he touches is a freaking masterpiece in their eyes. Mm-hmm. They're just like, and like the judges weren't even like coy about their feelings at all. Like they didn't even try to keep the mystery going of like, you know, will we send you to Fashion Week or will we not? Like every single one of them was like, I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, they did not even wait for the judging. They're like, I love it. I can't wait to see more. See you there.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts.
I will give the flamingo pattern this one small thing. From afar, it looks like a floral pattern when he has dipped it and like decolorized it. Because for a split second, I had forgotten about the flamingos, and it just looks like a faded floral pattern. But once you see 10 of these, literally, I think every single one, or at least that's how it appeared on the rack, has the same flamingo pattern. Mm-hmm. That's how he's tried to make his cohesive. The Lyris look, honestly, to me, this looks like she took a bed sheet and, like, someone was knocking on the door with, like, her FedEx package, so she took, like, a bed sheet, accidentally, like, ripped it in half, and, like, just wrapped herself up in it. Or like a pillowcase. It looks terrible. There's nothing here that it's got his random straps. It's got his random eyelets. It's got this high unnecessary cut. You can tell Lyris doesn't like it. She can walk a paper bag down the runway. This is as close to a paper bag as we've seen, and it looks terrible. She somehow made a big pink frilly bell look like fashion and like fun, and this just looks sad. Mm-hmm. Walk of shame of like some guy's sheets. Yeah. Terrible. The Janine look is better. I actually don't mind this. I think the backpack makes it feel really young. Yeah. And kind of fresh. And then Janine's kind of got her hair kind of styled, kind of natural. And then the high-low of the little smock dress. And it looks like it has pockets or at least a place to talk. So this looks kind of young and fresh. I actually like this quite a bit. I still don't like the flamingos. But the playing up the flamingos with the leather, it's kind of fun. It's kind of funky. I like it more than some Brandon things that he's made. And I don't see any random straps. Yeah. And the crop top doesn't actually show any skin. It just looks like a purposeful little cover. So I don't hate it. They didn't really have a top and a bottom, but he got almost exclusively positive praise. Yes. I think one person, maybe Zach, said that he didn't like the thing that he put on Lyris, but it didn't matter. Doesn't matter. No. Just like Erin last season. It doesn't matter if she literally made a trash bag. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Next up, we had Margarita, and her first model was Colleen, and this is a racerback navy top. And the front has some kind of ruching, and then it's got like a little knot with fabric because it's kind of extra that she's made like a tie to the side. And then the pants are this crazy mix of patterns. They're super tight at the top, slightly high-waisted, and then they fall down to these true 70s bell bottoms. Like from the knee down to the floor, they grow in probably about a foot of extra fabric. And they go all the way down. And then they're just kind of this random mashup of yellow, white, orange, pink, blue, purple, green, like just these different sections of fabric. Styled with some sunglasses and a top knot because, you know, it's beachy. And then the next look is Jasmine, and Jasmine's also styled with some sunglasses and a top knot. And she's wearing here a little bodysuit that kind of looks like a swimsuit. Half of it's navy with a light blue detail, and then the other half is like this pink with a light blue detail paired with these really high-waisted kind of weird navy satin shorts with a tie sash. And then over top of the bodysuit and the shorts is like this really psychedelic bomber jacket that's got that same pattern that I think she made the textile herself, and then she has like beading glitter overlay over top. So what did we think of Margarita's?
It was a lot. It's a lot going on.
Yes,
it's a lot. And then I agree, the couch is wackadoo. But, you know, like, I can't say that I hate this, though. Like, I kind of like it. I'm kind of feeling it. Like, it, I don't know. To me, this one is, like, the most fun and the most, like, experimental. And, like, I don't know. I agree with Margarita. She did go for it. Like, I do believe that. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite out of all 5, but I don't hate it. I mean, to me, like, I don't know. I agree with what Zach said on the one with the shorts. He didn't like I think it was Zach that said it. He didn't like the top, like, finishing. Mm-hmm. And, like, yeah, I agree. Like, to me, it looks kind of messy, and it's like, it blends. That navy blends in with
It's very bunched up.
Yeah. And I'm team bathing suit. I mean, what even is a bodysuit versus a bathing suit?
A bodysuit's what you wear outside the water.
Oh, right. Okay, I don't buy that. But I don't know. I thought this was kind of fun. There's so much going on. She said it herself that she's, like, putting everything in the kitchen sink in this, and she was not lying. But I don't know. If you make it to finals, why not?
Bring it.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I don't know if this says something about me or not, but this is the second pair of glitter bell bottoms that I've seen on Project Runway, and I didn't hate them. And if you know me, you know I don't like glitter, and I don't like bell bottoms. Yeah. I'm a boot cut jeans kind of girl. I don't hate this first look, and I should. I should hate it, but I don't. It fits the model so well, and the pants are just kind of funky, and they're fun. The bell-bottom's a little too big for me, but I don't hate the play of patterns, and the black racerback top, I actually like. I think the tie to the side's a little too long, like it's a little heavy, but the model can rock it, and the model's got some shoulders for, that look pretty good in a racerback. So, like, I should hate this. I should tear this apart with a tambourine, but I can't.
I'm actually shocked.
Yeah, so am I. When I saw her garments hanging, I was like, this is terrible. I can't wait to sink my teeth into this. But then I watched this first one walk down the runway, and I was like, oh no. I don't hate it. I don't love it. And I think 10 looks of that textile, that many patterns is gonna seem too much. Yeah. Like it looks like all of this like weird 80s packaging or something like put onto these pants, but it goes there. Mm-hmm. And then having the top simple with one little kind of design element was the right choice. Like putting too much of that pattern together, which we'll get to in the second look. But this one, I actually like the balance of just navy with the other piece. So yeah, I should hate it, but good job, Colleen. You made me like the impossible. The second look on Jasmine, who rocked it.
Who's Colleen?
That's the model.
Oh! I thought, like, all I was like, I don't remember a designer being named Colleen. Like, who the heck is Colleen?
So 13, Maggie's like, oh, that designer. No, the models.
Duh, what am I doing?
No. So her second look was on Jasmine, who's a fun model who really rocks it out a lot like Lyris in terms of just attitude. Like, look at this pose. Mm-hmm. She's just fierce. And we had a GIF, I think, on our, of her. Yeah. On our Instagram. So, pretty sweet. So, she's wearing the bodysuit with the shorts and the bomber jacket. I don't like the bodysuit or the shorts. I think if the shorts were simple or slightly not as like high-waisted, they'd be more successful. Or just put her down in the bodysuit. Completely rock that. I mean, you're from Puerto Rico. You wanted to have it colorful and kind of inspired by island life. Then just do a swimsuit. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing that says you can't do a swimsuit in your collection, for sure. Yeah. I like the bomber jacket idea. It's too much for me with the bodysuit as well. I think if you're going to use that pattern, then the rest has to be pretty subdued, which is why the first look kind of worked. This one just looks kind of frumpy and messy. I think if she'd paired that jacket with like a little blue like slip dress, or like I would even be fine here with a jumpsuit. Can you believe it? A navy, like slick navy, or like just if it was just that pink kind of magenta color, like little jumpsuit, or even like a romper, I'm not even mad at it. But this, I'm mad. I'm mad at this.
Hold on. Oh, no.
Go
Finish
ahead.
what you were saying.
I was just going to say she's kind of in the bottoms. Some of the judges weren't sure she was split. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you one thing. Did you find it annoying and, like, slightly insulting how Heidi kept saying over and over, "This is very Miami"?
Oh, yes.
Rather than Puerto Rican. And I feel like I saw something in Margarita's face where she's like...
Heidi literally said 3 different times Miami. Margarita has gotten that feedback several times this season for various looks. Even Nina, who is also from a Latin culture, saying like it looks very Miami, and it's like just because it's resort wear or just because it's a little island flair doesn't mean it's Miami. And yeah. It's like, no, this is Puerto Rican. She's inspired by San Juan. She lives in Puerto Rico. It's Puerto Rican. It's not Miami. I understand there's a lot of maybe, Puerto Rican influence on Miami these days. But it seemed 3 different times. She's like, it's New York Fashion Week, not Miami Fashion Week. And it's like, okay. And I get they were saying basically what Tim was, like, take it from the beach to the street. Mm-hmm. But, like, there's plenty of streets where that's what people wear. Like, I remember last season, Roberry was like, when they had the swimsuit challenge, he's like, in my culture, you wear swimsuits all the time. You show a lot of skin because it's hot. He's like, that's my culture. It's very sexy, very cha-cha-cha. And I'm sure Marguerite feels the same way, only she's embracing it. Mm-hmm. Roberry was kind of like rejecting it and wanted something a little more like classic. But Marguerite is like, no, it's fun. It's lively. And she even said herself, like, kitchen sink, do it. This is your one chance. Make your dream thing. They gave you $10,000. Go crazy. And she did. Yeah. It's not my favorite. I wish the patterns were as clashy, but the second look's not very strong. But the first look, I don't hate it, and that's... I need to look at myself in the mirror and have a long, hard discussion with myself about glitter bell-bottom pants.
Oh my god.
Who knew? All right, ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, so next up we had Kenya, and her first look was on Christina, which is a model we've seen quite a bit. And this is a little like beige, really light pink, like bralette, like a, I don't know, bandeau kind of thing on the top, and then some high-waisted kind of ruched pants, and then over top of that is the sleeveless robe kind of thing made of like, I think it's feathers or like palm leaves in various shades of like coral and light blue, and then it's tied with a little sash of that same fabric, and then the ends are black. What did we think? I'm sorry. And then second look was on Katie, who I don't remember at all. And this was a little black dress with a peplum at the bottom. The front, the top neckline is just a square. That's all I can describe, square. Right across the middle of poor Katie's breasts, not super flattering there. And then the back had like a bit of a dip, but not a super deep back. It did have pockets, but they were on like the front of the hip. There was some detailing here with the tailoring, but it's hard to tell. And then over top of all that, to make it quote-unquote cohesive, she put this beaded, like, tan/yellow, like, I don't know, organza or something that was beaded, or she beaded it with white beads. It's got little sleeves, and it's very sheer, and then it goes down to be about a foot longer than the dress. What did we think of Kenya's?
Not my favorite. I didn't mind the first piece so much. Like, to me, that one, like, actually showed, like, some vision. And, like, I got it. Like, I got the beach and vacation vibe from that one. And, like, she did bring in a little bit of color on the, like, I don't know, what do you call that? The, like, vest thing or...
Yeah, the robe thing, the cover-up.
Yeah. The judges liked it without that, but I feel like it was basically nothing without it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Without it, you could buy that outfit at Forever 21. So without the cover-up, it's nothing.
And then the second look, I really didn't like it at all. It wasn't very flattering. It was like the classic Kenya peplum whatever. And it didn't fit very well. And Tim said to bring in color, and she chose black.
Yeah, I know.
This is like...
What if she picked like a cerulean blue or even like a royal blue or even like a baby blue? This would be more successful than making another little black dress, but it's not made well.
I like the black details on that first piece, but not on the second. I was just like, Kenya, what have you done? And like, yeah, like you were saying earlier, if this was the only look that fit that particular model, you know, like the only one that she could have gone with, then yeah, that sucks.
Well, and it was hard to tell, like, if you got to pick the 2 looks and that determined the models. But at least in Kenya's instance, it seemed like she was given these 2 models and already knew the models, because obviously you have to make things to size, so they already knew their 10 models. But that she was just like, well, here, you get Christina and Katie, and she's like, well, this is the thing I made for Katie, and I didn't expect it to be in my 2 people previous. So it was just hard to tell what came first. Because Ayana was able to switch what her models wore, because luckily for her, she had Monique and Misha, and we'll get to her looks, but she was able to flip it twice. Because she wasn't sure what she wanted them to wear. Luckily, because Monique and Misha must be the same size as other models she was going to show. They're not the same size as each other, but it's just kind of like, kind of screwed Kenya over.
And like, I feel like she had way better stuff that she could have shown instead of that black dress. I don't know.
I like the first look in terms of like a color story, but if you take off the cover up, you could go buy that Forever 21. And then the cover up without sleeves just doesn't make a lot of sense. Christina rocks it because Christina's body is just, and she's kind of tan, so she just makes everything look good and every color pop. And she's got a bit of an attitude on the runway with her little like bun and hoop earrings is kind of cool. I got a vacation-y, beachy vibe. It looks like something you'd like wear to get room service, when you're on some tropical vacation, you wake up in the morning and you're just like, oh yes, my eggs Benedict, thank you. The second look, Kenya is usually known for tailoring and being able to make things for people various sizes, but I'm sorry, this dress does not fit this model. The treatment of the chest area is so terrible. And as a bustier person myself, this was a nightmare. This is every nightmare you have when you wear something low cut. It does nothing to make your boobs look nice or anything, and they just look bad. I felt bad for the model. And then the fitting down through her waist and hips, it's like puckering, and it doesn't look very good. And then a weird peplum, like a few inches below the knee, just cuts your legs in half, so now you look short and lumpy. And then you put this like weird sheer beaded thing with sleeves, so it just looks matronly. So now she's lumpy, she's bumpy, and now she's frumpy. And I don't know if it's because Kenya really wanted to show this piece, or if it's because she just got stuck with a model that she only had one piece for her size, or what. And the model's pretty. The model's doing what she can with it. But it's not a good piece. And Kenya was in the bottom in terms of critique she got. Next up we had Kentaro, and his first look is a white crop top, but it's just a little tiny peekaboo. And I'm not going to give him any air horns because Kentaro has not shown a lot of crop tops. No. That's only Brandon. It's a off the shoulder, one shoulder kind of thing with kind of puffy sleeves that then are gathered in at the wrist. And then it's paired over this skirt that's kind of like a tennis skirt, almost kind of flowy. It's got some weird straps like in the middle. And then off on the left hip, it's got some black tulle, like just tucked under, just on one little like lump. But you can kind of see it. And then his second look, and that model was Kylie. His second look is Sanita, and she's in this kind of peachy, beigey outfit. The top is kind of this weird asymmetrical, like camisole that is just spaghetti straps at the top. And then at the bottom is this kind of folded pointed. It's hard to tell if it's leather or not. I think it is, but it's hard to tell. It's kind of shiny, looks thick. And then he's kind of folded it and manipulated it in that classic Kentaro way. And then he paired that with a long pleated skirt in the same color, but in this light flowy fabric. What did we think of Kentaro?
I didn't really care for the first piece, but I liked the like peachy pink dress. This might have been like a different look, but like in the workroom I remember seeing one. I thought it was the white dress, but maybe it was like just a different piece. But it was like the black tulle was like fanning more like up. Like
I think that's when he was attaching it.
Oh, okay.
I saw him because it's also pleated tulle that he fit. And I should mention that these models are both styled with super tight, weird top knots that are like squished together. And then they both he asked the Avon makeup guy to give them bold brows. And so they literally both have like Groucho Marx black rectangles.
Yeah, black.
So this isn't like a Cara Delevingne, like nice bold brow, or even like a, no. This is just a bold black line, no shading, no feathering, and they both got it. And that will come up in their judging, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely weird.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, on that white piece, like, with the black tulle, I thought, I mean, I guess that was not his intention if he was only just attaching it at the time. But I kind of liked that, how, like, the black tulle was, like, fanning up onto it.
It had more of a story.
Yeah, like, and then when I saw this come down the runway, I was, like, kind of disappointed because he's kind of, like, hidden that, and now it's just a weird lump.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, it just, yeah, both looks just look so strange with that hair and makeup. It's odd. That was a weird choice.
Yeah, they basically both now have like a little Teletubby like antenna on their heads is what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
And then those bold brows are weird. This is a bit of a disappointment, the first look for sure. I like the top actually. I think that's kind of cool. I think it'd be cool if he paired it with his normal like leg warmer kind of or like skinny pant things with like a fun skirt over top like he did with the models off the runway kind of look where they had to like do streetwear. I think that kind of paired with that top would be kind of cool. Very casual but kind of neat. The weird lump I don't get. And he might have another look that's got like the flayed up or splayed up kind of tulle. We'll have to see. I'm hoping that he'll kind of repurpose this one. But last episode he had this really cool cream colored kind of white look that was very kind of tiered and it looked really cool. And then to see this in a similar color palette, I was like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Or like the black and white contracts could play really cool, but with just a lump, it's just weird to be weird. The second look though, I really liked a lot. I didn't love the two triangle things that point down. There's one in the front right over her, and then the other one on the back is like literally pointing right down her butt. So those, I didn't love the placement of those triangles, but no one brought it up. But the overall piece is really pretty. And on Sunita is almost her skin tone, so it's kind of this cool monochromatic look. Mm-hmm. And with her hair tied back, it's almost like her hair isn't even there. It's so tight that they look bald practically. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a cool statement.
Yeah.
He was in the bottom though in terms of critique. And then last up we had Ayana, and first up we had Misha, who's one of my favorite models. Her and Lyris are probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And she's wearing a dream in pewter gray. So she's wearing like this cool collared jacket. It's full length sleeves here, and then it's got some like cutting like textured tears at the elbow and then along the rib cage, and it's kind of tailored in at the back. Underneath that is this like slightly darker gray but not by much satiny kind of flowy top that's tucked in the front but flowy in the back, and then it's got these kind of very athleisure like modern day sweatpants that's got those little tears all the way up the side of the legs. And then the second look is Monique, and she's wearing this silver top. It looks like a muumuu to me. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very shapeless, but it's full sleeves, and then the sleeve, the collar, and the bottom trimming of the shirt are like this like round fabric. I don't know. It's got circles in it, and then it's paired over what look to be identical gray athleisure pants. What did we think of Ayana's?
I don't really like it. I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not into it. But to me, like, when I think about all the things that she's made this season, this just looks kind of dull to me. Like, I know she's going for, like, an earthy look, but I guess, like, the color palette to me, like, from what I've seen, is a real downer.
It's very subdued, and I'm sorry, but I get that earthy usually means, like, neutrals, but we're looking out, we're sitting in a Toyota RAV, like we always are, looking out. It's fall, there's trees that are bright orange, bright yellow, the green of the grass is still green, we've got a lake, we've got little, like, geese and ducks, and you just go out into nature, and they're doing it in the summer or, like, early fall. Green is popping, you got flowers, but it's, like, earthy just means, like, brown and tan, and it's just, like, earth has beautiful colors. Earth should be every color.
Yeah.
I mean, lava, how much earthier can you get? You just keep digging down. It's liquid hot magma. I'm talking fire red. But no.
Yeah.
We have pewter.
Yep. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of like the idea that she's going for athleisure. But to me, like, the pieces that she put out today, they feel mismatched, at least to me. Like, on that first look, to me, like, the top and the bottom don't go together. And I just feel like the like, shredding, ripping, whatever you want to call that, it's, like, too much. And it's kind of unnecessary.
It's very matchy-matchy here, because it's in multiple places.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really like it. And then, yeah, she's got some metallics. But it's like a gray metallic. Silvery, like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I'm not feeling this. What are your thoughts?
I have to admit, I like the first look better than her second look or either of the dresses.
Yeah. Oh my God, those dresses.
Dresses are so Little House on the Prairie or like Amish to me, and it's not because they're modest.
No.
It's the way she's added like these ruffles, and the placement of those ruffles just looks like what like lady school teachers in old Western movies wore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's not the modesty part, it's just where she's put her detailing. And then they were both done in this like light green, light gray kind of floral fabric, so it looks like the fabric they'd used back then.
Mm-hmm.
I like this first look a lot. I think a lot of it's also Misha's attitude. Misha wears it with like her hands in the pockets, so it's kind of cool and tough. Mm-hmm. I like the jacket a lot. I actually really like the jacket. The shirt underneath, I feel like if that was a bold pop of color, I mean, she was inspired by the earth. Why not have like a nice emerald green? Or even if it was like black or something else to kind of pop that light gray would be so cool. Like a little pop of blue there, or like orange, or even like a bright yellow, and I hate yellow. That would look cool. Like a pop of color. And then the pants, yeah, it's just so matchy-matchy, samey. Light gray on top of slightly darker metallic gray on top of the same light gray, and it's all cut up the sides. It just looks like you bought one tracksuit kind of from a store and then paired it with like your silky shirt from work. Mm-hmm. So Misha kind of makes it look cooler than I think it really is, but I don't hate the first look. I actually kind of like it. But the second look, Monique's trying. She's trying. So these models are so good. Like most of the time in Project Runway, models just walk up and they walk back, done. But these models this season, I feel like, are trying. And maybe it's because they're like, you know what? I'm plus size, but I can rock this thing. Yeah. And the like even, you know, more traditional size models like Misha, like they just have more attitude, which, yes. Mm-hmm. I want my models to have some personality and give some life to the looks, but Monique can't save this. The top is so shapeless, and it's just in the silvery fabric, just does nothing. She looks like she's all one straight line down, which is not true. And then having the same athletic pants in the same like pewter story, when you have 10 looks that are light gray, and I like Ayana stuff, and I like the first look, but this second look just does not excite me. I don't know why she couldn't do that first look and then do one of her like pilgrim dresses, but this just, I don't love it. And she was in the top though. Mm-hmm. So then each designer was asked, why do you want to go to New York Fashion Week for the second time? And everybody goes down the line, and Kenya starts crying a little bit, Marguerite starts crying a little bit, and they're basically all just like, because I want it.
Yeah.
Because I want to go, because I've worked hard. I know a couple of them are like, I have a unique perspective, but like some of them maybe, some of them no. Kentaro though, and I think this was part lost in translation, and part cultural, because in Japan you never say I'm the best. You never, it's very humble culture, and it's very just, you just don't, competition isn't out front like it is in America. And so he was like, you know, I'm ready, but I'm not ready. And I think what he meant was that he's not ready for Fashion Week because he needs to go back and make some tweaks. But Heidi was like, oh, so you're not ready. You don't want to go. And he's like, you could tell he's like translating what he's thinking. And I'm sure he thinks in Japanese. Most people with multiple languages, they think in their native and then they have to translate it. So he is probably thinking in Japanese or mishmash of both languages, and then has to say, and he might know other languages as well. And then he has to say in English. So it just came out, I think, of like, that he needs to make some tweaks, but he's ready for Fashion Week. Obviously, he just spent 6 weeks making a collection. So that was awkward, though, because she's like, so you're not ready? And he's just like,
yeah.
So didn't love that. And then we'll just get right to it.
Yeah.
So first in, of course, Brandon, you are going to New York Fashion Week.
Shocker.
What a surprise. And yet, first one in. Second, Ayana, you are going to New York Fashion Week. Yay! And that's good because both of us put her in our list. Yeah. So that's good from episode 1.
I was still a little surprised. I was surprised with how much the judges liked it.
I was surprised that she was such an easy shoo-in for number 2.
Yeah.
Because the 2 looks they saw here didn't seem very indicative of, like, a really exciting collection.
Mm-hmm.
There was no wow factor on either of these, other than a nice jacket.
Yeah. I don't mean to, like, downplay anything, because she's an amazing designer.
Mm-hmm. And we've liked a lot of her pieces, but...
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, like, part of me is just kind of like, is this just because you're, like, a modest designer and we've never had this before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Ashley on whatever season. She was, like, the first plus-size designer.
Yep.
And, like, I liked her stuff a lot. And did she win?
Yeah, Ashley won her season, which was...
That's right.
Some people did not react to that.
So, I don't get that feeling from Ayana, like, that, like, she's a shoo-in to win the whole thing. Especially not next to Brandon.
Yeah.
Jesus. But,
I mean, we could be shocked.
Yeah, I hope I'm shocked.
So then Margarita was number 3. Margarita, you're going to New York Fashion Week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that. Knowing that Margarita could have gone home 2 weeks ago and had the save used, it seems a little nasty now that she basically, in my opinion, kind of stole a spot.
Yeah.
From someone else, because otherwise the other 4 would have gone and Marguerite would have been out on a weak look at that week. But this time I feel like she was stronger, so I guess, you know, that's the benefit of the save, because I don't feel like she stole one now after seeing their looks.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time when she was saved, I was like, oh man, or last week I was like, oh man, what if someone, you know, trumps out? So then that left Kenya and Kentaro standing there. And they're like, 1 more of you will go. So they originally said 3 of you will go, but because they cannot make decisions this season, only, 1 will go home. So Kentaro and Kenya are staying there, and they kept talking about how Kentaro said he wasn't sure. Mm-hmm. And then with Kenya, they were like, well, she makes clothes, but it's a wow factor and whatever. And then it turns out, Kentaro, you get to go to New York Fashion Week, which Kenya, we're sorry, that means we have to send you home. And poor Kenya, because Heidi wasn't there, didn't even get, like, the Heidi cheek kiss and oft, because she's on screen. But it was very nice, because Zach and Nina both stood up, which I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen either of them approach the runway, or a guest when someone got offed.
No.
And I'm sure it was because Heidi wasn't there, but they both approached and were like, Kenya, you make great things. Continue to make great things. Continue to make stuff for all different sizes. And this just wasn't the right time for you. And Zach was like, just because you're going home now, like, people have seen you week after week. They've seen your stuff. Like, use this as a launch pad. Mm-hmm. Which is true, because a lot of people, like, they're like, oh, I didn't win, so I guess Project Runway's over. Or, oh, I didn't get to go to New York Fashion Week, which she still gets a show at New York Fashion Week, don't worry. Not as a finalist on the show, but, like, the top, like, 6 or 7 people get to make dummy collections to throw off the media of who wins. So she still technically got to show. And I'm sure Kenya will be fine, because she makes some cool stuff. She just didn't bring in as much this week. Do you agree with those 4 people? Or how'd you feel about Kenya being offed?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I agree. And, like, I want to see Kentaro more. But at the same time, like, I'm kind of disappointed and, like, worried about what he brought.
Yeah.
Like, since we as the viewer have kind of seen that behind the scenes stuff. Like, we got to see more than just the 2 pieces on the runway. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm curious to see how it's gonna all look and, like, what order he puts things in, and I don't know. I mean, I guess, bottom line, I guess I do agree.
Yeah. I do too. I wouldn't have said this last episode.
No.
But based off their 2 look previews and the rest, I have to agree. Kenya, when he went to visit her in Atlanta, I didn't like anything she had up there. It felt very old Kenya, where it's kind of matronly. It's kind of like what she was making earlier in the season. But when she really pushed herself, she made some better stuff. But otherwise, her, like, back was just... She'd always just retreat back to, like, matronly business wear. And that's a lot what this look was. And then Inspired by Vacation, how boring. Like, I don't know. And then her color palette was just kind of a yawn. So there's our 4 finalists who will be showing at New York Fashion Week, which we'll see next episode. So it's Brandon, Margarita, Kentaro, and Ayana. So before I get to my quotes of the week, I am going to touch on 2 things. So... I did see a little sneak preview for All Stars, which will start airing.
You did? I haven't seen it.
Yes, it was in the commercials, and it looks like it's going to air in January.
Okay.
So we didn't have an All Stars between seasons this time.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the name, now I didn't show everybody, but it showed some. Are you ready for this list?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. We have Ma Jing.
Okay.
Which was a favorite from his season. He made denim. Maggie loves denim. We had Merlene. So she's a couple seasons ago, but she was really more of like an architectural kind of designer. And she made some really cool looks. Helen, who was a little drama, I think, from her time. Candace, who is one of my favorites because I love like dark, witchy,
like the black.
Yeah, vampy stuff. So if it's the Candace that I know and love from that season, which she still made that stuff, I am super excited for Candace to be back. Anthony, Fabio, Ken, who I thought was already on All Stars again.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I saved the best for last. Kelly from the Deli.
Oh, yay!
Who sometimes made some kooky stuff, but loved it.
Yes.
Kelly from the Deli, so much fun.
I thought you were going to say Swapnil for some reason.
I don't think he'll come back.
I don't think they'll invite him back. Because he kind of like, I don't know. But yeah, it's probably both ways. He wouldn't want to come back because he always had that attitude like he's too good.
Yeah.
But then,
well, he knew he could win the competition, so he held back so that he wouldn't like show all his tricks right away. And then when he did start to like try really hard, and the judges were just kind of like, well, where was this whole time? Like, you were holding back. That's not the competition. And then he was like, fine, if you don't like it, I'm not going to try again. And then Tim was like, you have to go.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of sold him out. But then his fake collection, not
so
fake,
good.
it's the best thing I've ever seen in Project Runway. He interwove his culture into his looks in such a cool way. It's still fashion forward. Because I look at pictures of that anytime I'm like getting ready for New York Fashion Week. I look at some of the old collections of Project. It still looks cool. Swap new. But I don't think he's coming back for also. He might be on there, but those are the ones that I saw or I read. Like, because I didn't see the whole clip, so I'm not sure which Anthony it is. I know we've had a couple, and I'm not sure which Ken it is. But I think it's probably Rage Ken.
Okay.
So now I'll do my quotes of the week, and then we'll get into our next week preview. So I've got quite a few quotes, but I'll try to get through them quickly. So Kenya, talking about, like, this final challenge, said, 2 pieces, and that's going to change your life. And it's true, like, to have all of this work and all of this time, as Margarita would say, and then to die at the end. Where it's like, yeah, it's 2 pieces, and 2 pieces of a 10-look collection. It's going to be hard to show that cohesion. It's going to be hard to show your unique kind of eye. But I think Kenya really picked poorly of her pieces, or was given kind of a nasty model choice. And not to say Katie was a bad model, she wasn't, but the fact that Kenya only had one piece that would fit her and it was not her strongest piece kind of was a bummer. So but yeah, true, at the end of the day, 2 pieces could change your life. That's the difference between you and $100,000. Next up, Tim said, and this is like my quote of the season about cohesion. Cohesion isn't just a similar color palette. It's a feeling and a vibe, which for someone like Brandon, whose every single piece uses that same flamingo fabric, or folks in previous seasons who always had like the same color, like everything's in black or everything's this, it is that vibe. So for Kentaro, even though he has like 3 or 4 different collections, quote unquote, if they all look like the same girl, because I wear a lot of, I'm not a good representative, but like, you love denim, but you don't wear denim every day. So you wouldn't maybe make a 10-piece collection of all denim. I almost said myself, but I do wear black every day. But but that's just me. So I had to change that in the last minute. But like, your average person's closet is not just going to be like a cartoon closet where it's Homer Simpson's outfit 20 times in the closet. You know, the same girl's going to wear 10 different kind of pieces. Maybe not 10 colors, but... So I liked that Tim said that. Next, Kenya, when going in to get her model's makeup done, she said, I want it simple, glowy, and a touch of smack yo mama. Which I just love Kenya. Some of the stuff she said all season. Like, her attitude when the twins were around was hilarious. And just the looks she would give the camera were like, oh my God. But a touch of smack yo mama, which I don't know what that means, but as a makeup person, I'm going to start using that now. Like, in the morning when I'm getting ready, I'm going to be like, ooh, simple, glowy, and a touch of smack yo mama. Which I think was like the bold lip color, but... that was good. And her makeup actually looked pretty good for her models. Mm-hmm. Next, Nina saying to Kentaro, and this is the piece that they showed on the like next week preview last week that I was like, who is she saying that to? She said, your models, the way he styled them, they look like robots. Your clothes are cold. They have no soul. They're just clothes. Which one, I disagree. I think Kentaro's looks have quite a bit of soul. Mm-hmm. Maybe dead cat souls, but they've got something there. But what a harsh thing for Nina to say. Mm. They have no soul. They're just clothes. It's like,
yeah.
No, he's a finalist in a, like, fashions, like, his stuff that was just kind of harsh. But we didn't really get to see, like, Kentaro didn't start crying or something. Like, if Nina said that to me about anything, like, she's like, your work has no soul, it's just blank, I'd be like, ugh. Oh my god. Someone was like, your podcast has no soul, it's just talking. I'm like, Nina, no.
Like, excuse me, unsubscribe.
They'd have to be subscribed first.
Oh,
well, self-burn. Next up, Heidi talking to talking to Kenya, said there was no real point of view, it was just clothes. So two different people, granted the people on the bottom this time, but it's episode 13. We're going to the finale, literally going to show at Fashion Week, and they have two people that they think just make just clothes. Like, what? Mm-hmm. Then how'd they make it this far, judges?
Right.
Next up, we had Heidi to Kenya after she was offed. Kenya, we absolutely love you. Which, great. Kind of hollow. But at least Heidi, like, and when Zach and Nina came up, they were all, like, really, like, we do like you. Sorry you have to go home now. But, you know. And then Kenya, after being off, said, Project Runway has elevated me out of my comfort zone, which I think is true. Mm-hmm. The later half of the season until this episode, she had not made any peplums for a while. She kind of, after her, like, teen challenge with Amy, where they both made really weird looks, like with the blue denim suit, and like Kenya made like this like flight attendant thing. They both really improved, Kenya really improved after that. And then Tim to Kenya, when he walks into the workroom and they have to say goodbye, he says, I feel sick. If I had another save, I would use it on you. Cut to Margarita's face looking awkward AF. And I did forget to mention, all the designers were like kind of staying like one big hotel kind of suite, and like Kenya's there, Brandon's there, they hug. Kentaro comes in, he hugs his brother Brandon, and then he like attacks Kenya on the couch, and they're like rolling on top of each other. Ayana comes in, hugs, yay. Margarita comes in, everybody stays seated, and Margarita sits down awkwardly on the couch. She's like, look guys, we got a letter. So like they're over Margarita too. Do you have anything else to say about this episode?
Not really. It was a long one.
It was long. I didn't expect it. You guys don't know this, but I think you do too. We watch the podcast on Friday mornings, and we wake up early to do it. And this morning, I knew it'd be longer, so I woke up at 4:45 in the morning to watch this episode.
Ugh. I still got up at my usual 5 a.m., but ew.
I woke up a little early because I knew it'd be longer, but yeah, bit of a struggle this morning when I'm like an hour and a half, but it's worth it for the finale. But yeah, this isn't the strongest season, I don't think. When the best is Brandon and I don't understand the praise that he gets and I don't like his looks, then it's hard to be like, yay, great season. It's not the worst by far, but and it got a lot better once the twins were gone, for sure. Okay, so then our next week preview is obviously it's going to be New York Fashion Week. We got a little tidbit that Brandon was sleeping, which is just like, that's just how you know someone's kind of a jerk. Where it's just like, I'm so sure that I'm going to win that I'm sleeping, which tells me maybe he won't.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a twist. We see Kentaro very worried because he's like, I'm basically already out because they didn't like his first looks. And then we get a really sad moment where just the timing of the show filming, Margarita gets a call from her parents and the hurricane is about to hit. And it hit Puerto Rico incredibly hard, as we all know. And so it'll be interesting to see how that twist happens, because how can you focus on fashion, even if it's your life dream, knowing that your family and your friends and your life are potentially being destroyed?
Yeah.
That, like, hundreds and thousands of miles away. That would be so hard. So it'll be very interesting to see how that affects the challenge or anything. I hope that next episode, when that happens, that Project Runway has some type of maybe like a fundraising thing or something like that, even if it's just on like social media or on their webpage where it's like, hey, donate, or like do like the text campaign, text this number to donate $10 to hurricane relief for Puerto Rico, just because I'm sure it's going to be a big thing next episode, because obviously it's drama and the editors have to, you know, put it in there, the producers do, but I feel really bad for Margarita. And then, like, this episode, we just saw San Juan in a really cool, kind of intimate way, walking around, and to know that it got, like, devastated is sad. So, next week's going to be a lot of emotion. For sure. But otherwise, I think that's it for us.
Yeah, should we make... Who's your prediction?
My mind tells me Brandon, but I would not be surprised if it was Ayana or Margarita.
Okay.
Like, I could see, depending on their guest judge, and if they want to be like, well, because Margarita's life was destroyed by a hurricane, maybe she could use $100,000. Or if Ayana's other looks make it work, since they've liked it, but it seems so subdued. But my bet is probably Brandon.
Yeah.
You?
I think, yeah, it will probably be... I could definitely see Brandon. My personal want is I really want Kentaro to pull it out. I just
It's like last season we wanted Robert and Laurence and they didn't do it. Yeah.
But, alright.
Alright, so you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RavRunway. We're also on Podiant, WordPress, and iTunes and Apple Podcasts. So you can search for us there. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. Take us on the go. Rate, review, subscribe, follow, do it all, because we will be back for All Stars most likely.
Yeah.
But we will definitely be here next week for the finale of season 16. So we'll see you next week.